of wild women in the deep East Texas woods. They read some good books and party with the authors and have more fun than you think they could. Wild, wicked, and free, they're the Pulpwood Queens. Pulpwood Queens. Wild, wicked.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Patrick, and I'm here with Paula McLain, author of The Paris Wife, the story of Ernest Hemingway and his first wife, Hadley. Oh, it's romantic, yes, but trouble indeed. Let's hear about the tale. Good morning, Paula.
Good morning, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about how this came about.
I was trying to write a second novel and completely in the weeds, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And I had some sort of general idea that I might want to do a book set in the 20s, so I thought I should read Ernest Hemingway's A Movable Feast, his memoir. And I started reading and couldn't stop, just basically read the whole thing almost weeping. It was so tender and poignant, and the particular note that struck with me was the regret and the tender way that he remembered his first marriage. Once it occurred to me that I could write this book, I went and found some biographies of Hadley and fell madly in love.
Well, the voice is perfect for Hadley. I fell in love with her too. And I've heard lots of stories in my life about Papa Hemingway, but never much about when he was younger. I have the feeling you kind of have maybe a romantic interest in the author himself.
I do have a hardcore crush on the young Hemingway. I think how not. They met in 1920, Chicago, and he was just 20 years old and wildly ambitious even then to change the world as a writer, and exuberant, and he was basically on fire, and so she was magnetized by him from the very beginning.
We're here to welcome Paula McLain tonight, and so I'm going to turn over the questions to all of you so you can ask Paula questions about The Paris Wife.
I understand that when you were researching this book, you got a chance to read some of the letters, and I was wondering how that felt when you read them and how you were able to weave those feelings into your book.
The love letters that flew back and forth between St. Louis, where Hadley was living, and Chicago, there were thousands of pages of letters, and these were, funny and passionate. Her voice in them, she's hilarious. But I also found a lot of his correspondence, early stuff, which I found incredibly moving, and I think it helped me have a lot more compassion for him as a character. I wasn't sure at the beginning whether I liked this Ernest Hemingway character. I thought maybe he was going to be mean to Hadley, and then I wouldn't like him at all. And I actually had a great deal of tenderness for him, particularly by the time the book was over. And I also had a huge crush on him by the time I finished writing the book.
The one thing about the story that's going to really engage the readers is that who hasn't fantasized about running off with someone to Paris?
Paris in the 20s. I mean, can you have a more romantic and exciting kind of location to set a story? I don't think so. I actually think he needed to go to Paris in order to reinvent himself, in order to remake himself with a great deal of freedom.
And that's what he did. He reinvented himself, and when he did so, the first wife didn't really fit into the picture.
I know. I mean, that's the tragic bit, I think. And she had done almost no traveling before. Born and raised in St. Louis, and kind of a Victorian holdout, not a modern woman, not a jazz age woman, and also kind of a quiet personality.
And then she's thrown into Paris, and the bohemian lifestyle. You had the feeling that most of these people were out of control.
Yeah.
All the while drinking and partying, and then Hadley has a child. So a child is brought into this fray, and that changed everything.
Well, having children was not fashionable,
And neither was marriage either.
And marriage was not fashionable, exactly. I think of Hadley as a very American girl.
Yes, she was.
Her solid Midwestern roots. So what if she didn't fit in Paris?
And she didn't. Everything was fashion and high fashion. And the bobbed hair and the clothes.
She wasn't a Chanel girl.
Right, Chanel.
Yeah. She wasn't Pauline Pfeiffer, who became his second wife, who was this fashion editor for Vogue and wore great clothes and always had the right thing to say and was shrewd and kind of manipulative.
The Pauline character was very intriguing, and the fact that she was friends with Hadley and Lovers with
Twisted. Right?
It was really twisted. So we're thinking that our ancestors were much more prudish. Well, actually,
not.
I think they weren't. And so I think anybody that reads this story is going to be shocked.
Yeah, the kind of sexual license and how many triangles there were.
When you write a book like this, how much does it take out of you putting all of this into the book? Did you find that your own personal life got drawn into the story, or could you separate the two?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I actually think that it didn't take so much from me, the writing of this book, as much as it gave something to me. I had never actually written anything so quickly. I'd never felt more energized by a writing project. It almost felt as if I wrote the whole thing strapped to a rocket ship, you know,
Wow.
completely absorbed and swept away. And it was almost as if I was sort of reading all this material and hoovering it all up, and then sort of finding a place in my imagination where I could enter the story more deeply and feel like what was not there in the biography, of course, was their interior lives.
Oh,
And
yes.
how they were thinking and feeling, and their kind of more private voices and their more private musings.
We've been with Paula McLain, the author of The Paris Wife, the wonderful romantic story of Hadley and Ernest Hemingway. But we're not just a bookstore here and discussing books at Beauty in the Book. We're also a hair salon. And I find, you know, there was great beauty in your book, and there can be great beauty in doing author makeovers. So I would very much like to give you maybe a Parisian look to go along with your wonderful book, which everyone should read. So I say that we go to the stylish chair and have a fun makeover.
I'm game.
Right now, we're getting ready to go for a 1920s Parisian bob style with marcelled finger waves, so we have to wet the hair. Oh dear, she goes, my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? But this is the fun part.
High glamour.
Who would play who in the movie? Do you have some ideas on that? I bet you do.
Oh, I do. I sort of think the perfect Ernest Hemingway would be Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh.
He's shorter than Ernest, but he's got that same kind of magnetism and intensity.
I like that. Now, I'm doing it very stylized, so this is a little bit different than you've probably ever had done before. Look up just a second. This is so much fun. And then we're going to apply some really red lips because we want you to be all lips and eyes. Before I put you underneath the dryer, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite accessory?
My favorite accessory might be a gin and tonic.
A gin and tonic. And now we have Paula McLain in the Parisian style befitting her book, The Paris Wife. Voila!
I particularly love the jewels in the hair and the way my hair looks like a garden.
Well, I think it's also time for that cocktail accessory, don't you think?
Absolutely.
We're here at the bar with Paula, and she's going to show us how to make a cocktail.
Absolutely, the ultimate accessory. So what we're going to make today is a sidecar, which was reportedly invented in Paris at the Ritz Hotel, where Hadley and Ernest spent many an hour drinking like fish. So it's actually a really simple cocktail. We're going to start by sugaring the rim of our lovely etched glasses. Beautiful.
In this book, there's a lot of drinking, and I noticed that Hadley is with Ernest almost all the time.
She could definitely hold her own with the cocktails. One of the things that he admired most about her actually was that she could hold her own in a bar and actually drink him under the table on more than one occasion. So what we're doing is adding some ice to our shaker. I've already put the brandy in the glass, so it's equal parts brandy and Grand Marnier and lemon juice. And you do a little shake.
Have you done this before?
In another life, yes, I was a bartender. And it is the prettiest color.
Oh, yes. Oh, that looks perfect. Well, Paula, this was a pleasure. I feel like we're right back in 1920s Paris.
It's been a great day.
Thank you
Cheers.
so
Here's
much.
to you.
Cheers. Hemingway, Fitzgerald, T.S. Eliot, and Eric Maria Remarque were some of the writers who were part of the lost generation, a term Hemingway used in which of his novels? Go to our website to enter our Beauty in the Book giveaway. 10 people with the correct answer will be chosen at random to get a free copy of today's featured book, The Paris Wife by Paula McLain.